Near mint condition, the Homo collected edition.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
Happy Tuesday, all you minties, and the segment is back. That's right, we're back today to talk about all of the upcoming collected editions from Marvel Comics this week. I am the Uncanny Omar, and thank you all that have missed this particular segment, that have emailed me when it was coming back, or messaged me, or left comments. Well, look no further, because it's back today. Let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these collected editions. All of these books are due out in the direct market and book market on July 16th or 17th, depending on where you get your books. And as always, I leave timestamps in the description of the video to let you know when I'm talking about a particular book, if you're new to this particular segment. I also try to stay away from spoilers, unless I need to talk about them, but I will let you know ahead of time. So you can jump around if you're curious about one particular book, what exactly it is, or maybe if the artwork has been remastered. Okay, so got a lot to talk about. Haven't done this in a couple of weeks. Sorry, because I was out of the country, and now I am back. So let's go ahead and kick it off with this really interesting collection, because it's not what I thought it was going to be, and that is Demon Days. Alright, let's kick it off with Peach Momoko's Demon Saga, Demon Days. And Demon Days was the very first, and I guess at the time was the only demon storyline that Peach Momoko was working on. By the way, this is a digest size book. It's $13.99. And by digest size, I mean that the trim size is smaller than that of a trade paperback. So you can see the dimensions of it are smaller. That's why it's cheaper. There we go. And of course, it's definitely smaller than the Uncanny Omar talk pretty one day, than the trim size of a Treasury edition, which is the way the book was originally collected and then in a trade paperback. Now, I mentioned that this is a really interesting collection, one that I didn't see coming, because if you've read the Demon Days, part of the Demon Saga, I've done a thorough overview of this. As a matter of fact, the Astonishing Melanie and I did a thorough overview of this. If you want to go and check it out on our channel, it's a beautiful, beautiful story. I'm not really going to talk much about the story other than it's a reimagining of some of the Marvel characters. But what's interesting about this, and for some reason they decided to go in this format, is that this is printed in a black and white format for the first time. That's interesting that they did it in a digest size instead of a Treasury edition or another, like maybe like a gallery edition, director's cut. Most of the time when I see artwork like this, it's like a noir edition. They make it into a deluxe hardcover. So it's really interesting to see this just, without the colors. It's got some of the washes in there, the ink washes and other techniques that Peach Momoko uses. So this is definitely something I did not see coming. This collects the Demon Days X-Men, Demon Days Mariko, Demon Days Cursed Web, Demon Days Rising Storm, Demon Days Blood Feud, and the material from King in Black #4, Elektra Black and White, and Blood #4. But all of it, with the exception of the covers, is done just like this, in this colorless format. 192 pages and retailing for $13.99. In the back, you still do get the glossary of some of the yokai, which explains who some of these characters may be in the 616 universe, and printed in this glossy paper stock. But here, let me just do a quick little comparison so you can see. This is, of course, using some of the ink washes, but this is done in black and white, so it's taken away these beautiful paints, this watercolor that she uses. Just absolutely stunning. If you've read the book, this is a really cool addition to your collection, if you're a fan, of course, of this. Now, it's not the only Peach Momoko, nor is it the only Demon Saga book we're talking about today, because we're also getting a trade paperback edition of Demon Wars, another one of those books that has been previously collected in a Treasury edition, and one we've done on the channel if you want to go and check out that overview. It's a beautiful book, but I understand those big books are not for everybody. So this is more of the trim size of the single issue that it originally was published in. So this collects the Demon Wars, the Iron Samurai, Demon Wars Shield of Justice, Demon Wars Down in Flames, and Demon Wars Scarlet Sin. The book has 144 pages and retails for $19.99. It's the same material that was collected in the Treasury Edition, and the extras are the same. And most of the story, I don't want to say all of it, but most of it, of course, taking place in Japan. With that reimagining twist of the classic 616 characters, Melanie and I had a blast trying to figure out who some of the characters were. As a matter of fact, if you look in the back, they will kind of hint at who some of the characters were supposed to be without being in your face about it. But sometimes some of them don't make any sense still. And this is an adaptation in this particular world of the Marvel Civil War story. Not the MCU, but the 616 Civil War story, which was written by Mark Millar and drawn by Steve McNiven. This time around, you don't have Iron Man, nor do you have Captain America, but you literally have like a Black Panther character. The Captain America character is a little bit different. He's the Shield of Justice, and the Iron Man character is the Iron Samurai. So again, having that Japanese, like a feudal Japan flair to these particular stories, which is what a lot of people are attracted to when it comes to these particular books. There's a lot of beautiful books coming out this week. Like Doctor Strange, Fall Sunrise, another book that has come out in a Treasury edition, and one that you can check out exactly what it is in a little more deep dive. This collects Fall Sunrise 1 through 4. It was a miniseries by Tradd Moore. And if you love the artwork in Silver Surfer Black or Luther Strode, you will love this. It is trippy. It is colored by Heather Moore. And I want to say that that's his wife or his sister. I don't know. I never want to imply. But I assume they're related to him. Then again, it could be the case of like Stan Lee, Jay Lee, Jim Lee. Who knows? But this is just really quick. A trippy is the best way to put it. Beautiful story about Doctor Strange waking up in another world. A world he doesn't belong in. A world filled with gods and demons, and he doesn't know exactly how to get out of there and how he even got there. It's 136 pages, and this particular version retails for $17.99. Here's the back cover right there. And it is a crazy ride. And I want to see Tradd Moore do more and more of these classic Marvel characters, like his own take on them. I love to see him do like a Doctor Doom story, and he doesn't just have to stick to the Doctors, because we've seen his cosmic stuff with Silver Surfer Black, but then again, that was written by Donny Cates. But Tradd Moore can actually write some really interesting and trippy things. Maybe I was thinking of characters like Dr. Voodoo and Dr. Doom, but outside the box characters like Man-Thing would be awesome just to see him draw those. Oh, and you have like a little cameo by Howard the Duck. Oh, yes. 136 pages, $17.99. In the back is where you're going to find the variant covers. So, there you go. All right, so here we have White Widow. Finally, a new book. Not finally, because I really do enjoy those other books. But this is something new that I hadn't read before. So, this is the character of Yelena. And Yelena is a very interesting character because Yelena Belova, she's different than the character that you see in the MCU. She has been around for a while now. I want to say since the late 90s. She first appeared in the Inhuman series by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee. And then she was a villain. She was a hero. She took over the role of Black Widow. And now she goes as White Widow. Since the Kelly Thompson era of Black Widow. If you haven't read that, oh, it's phenomenal. And in print now as a big, thick, complete collection. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll get a oversized hardcover collection of that run. But anyway, back to this. I do want to give credit where credit is due, though. This is written by Sarah Gailey, Alessandro Miracolo doing the art, with Matt Milla doing the colors, and Travis Lanham doing the lettering. The covers like this one here are done by David Marquez. So, It is a really interesting take on the character of White Widow. It's not the first time we've seen her in a limited series. We've actually seen her in the Thunderbolt series right here. But it is the first time where she's trying to find out exactly who she is. And the way that this is done, it's done in very, very tongue-in-cheek. Like, oh, I don't know who I am exactly, but I can tell you the things that I like and the things that I don't like. So she does have a new status quo. She's trying to get out of the shadows of being Black Widow and out of the shadows of being in the same program that Natasha Romanoff was in. So now we see her in a new town. And in this particular town, she has new friends. You have Bint Clarton, which I guess is a take on, of course, Clint Barton. You have Griffin here, Sabine, and Zelda. Oh, and Roman. So this is kind of her supporting cast in this little bitty town that she lives in. And when she starts getting used to living in this little suburbia area of the world, this new company called Armament comes in, and her past comes back to haunt her. Because you know you can't really leave your past behind. So this little town, what is it called? Idylhaven? No, Idylhaven. Idylhaven gets rocked by these particular villains. A bunch of assassins that come after her. And once they can't get to her, they start going through some of her friends that she's made. So it's this group called Armament. And it's a company that just seems to want to infiltrate and try to get her out, to either recruit her or to take her out. Each issue has a little bit of a flashback, talking about her relationship with Captain America and Wolverine, and I don't want to spoil who else shows up as a flashback, nor do I want to spoil some of the Easter eggs that show up through this particular series. This collects the 4-issue miniseries, White Widow, 1 through 4. It has 112 pages. I will say the artwork is very, at least to me, very reminiscent of something like a mix between somebody like Sean Murphy with Olivia Coipel. I love that. The cartoony look to it, and it suits the story fine. You're going to see the things that she loves, likes, she's neutral about, dislikes. Very in your face about, like, trying to find your own way in life. And at this point, I really don't know exactly how old she's supposed to be. Maybe in her mid-20s. Regardless, it's nice to see her. I will say that this is a character that, when she first appeared, it felt like nobody really knew what to do with her, whether to make her a villain, whether to make her a sidekick, whether to make her a replacement character. And as everybody probably knows, those replacement characters don't get a lot of love, especially when they're brand new. Looking at you, Jean-Paul Vallée, or anybody else that has tried to wear the cowl that isn't Bruce Wayne. Although, Dick Grayson, now we're talking. But anyway, that is the distinguished competition. In the back, you do have some of the variant covers and character designs. So let's actually look at some of these. That is a Hidden Gems cover. This is from, I think this is a Marvel Swimsuit by Adam Hughes. And you have different artists take on the character of Yelena here. And the concept artwork, and then, yeah, her actual supporting cast, original art, cover sketches, and then layouts for pages. And I was just talking about the Black Widow there by Kelly Thompson. So this is $15.99, 112 pages. And welcome to the part of the video where we're looking at all of the spines of the books coming out this week. And also a reminder to smash that like button, please. And thank you so much to all you wonderful folks that enjoy this particular segment. I love doing it because it helps me catch up with what's going on in modern day Marvel, even though some of these stories are quite old. Oh, I hate saying quite old. A little old. There we go. All right, let's continue with the overview of the books. Next up is Shang-Chi by Jean Luen Yang. And man, I love these stickies. It's not an epic collection. It's not a modern epic. It's not a saga book. It's just Shang-Chi by Jean Luen Yang. I think at one point, they probably would have called this a complete collection, but they canceled those lines, so they're not doing complete collections. But I mean, this is a thick book. This has all 4 of these trade paperbacks, all the content of these 4 trades in one book. This is $54.99. And if you haven't read the run of Shang-Chi by Jean Luen Yang, oh my gosh, it's so good. It's modernizing a lot of these classic stories, which for some reason, with the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, just didn't. It took like a long time. I feel like it was way after Iron Fist, way after the modernization of somebody like Moon Knight, that finally, and it might be due to, I don't know, a lot of people are thinking it might have been due to some licenses, or it just might be because sometimes they just need to sit on a character for a while before reimagining it. So, who knows? Maybe one day we'll see Slapstick come back, or Super Pro, right? Or Sleepwalker. Now we're talking. All right, Terror Incorporated. I mean, we've seen the Shroud and the Fool Killer. Anyway, what the hell am I saying? What am I saying? Okay, I'm saying that this collects Shang-Chi 1 through 5 that started off in 2020. It also collects Shang-Chi, the 2021 series 1 through 12, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings miniseries 1 through 6, Shang-Chi, the Master of the Ten Rings miniseries, and then the Marvel Voice, or that's a one-shot, the Ten Rings, and then the Marvel Voices Identity #1. It has 560 pages, $54.99. So it's broken up into 4 different story arcs. You have the beginning, the brothers and sisters. And this particular storyline is interesting because it expands on the idea of Shang-Chi being the son, because again, it's a reimagining of somebody named Zhen Zhu, who was a villain, right? Like, that was in charge of this clan, this deadly clan. But this clan wasn't alone. Much like the character of Iron Fist whenever it was modernized, they introduced new concepts, Brubaker and Fraction, where you have different houses. So you do have like the House of the Deadly Hands. And each house has like somebody that represents them. Somebody that almost becomes like their avatar. And you have 5 different houses. You have the House of the Deadly Staff, with Brother Staff. So that's how they're known as. Like, they go by different names. You have the House of the Deadly Saber. So you have a Brother Saber. You have Sister Dagger. And then you have Sister Hammer. So those are the new characters that are introduced through here. Are any of them really related to Shang-Chi? Well, maybe. You can find that out for yourself. So once the leader of this evil organization, Zheng Zhu, passes away, what happens to his group? Like, what happens to it? Well, that's where the character of Shang-Chi comes in and eventually takes over this organization. So it doesn't bode well with the rest of the Marvel Universe. So in the second arc, we start seeing some drama, because this is comics, and misunderstandings where characters come in and they try to put a stop to him because they feel like, hey, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be a good guy. We're the Earth's mightiest hero. So yeah, some of the Avengers show up through here. And you start seeing the character of Shang-Chi just hold his own. Like, how badass of a character he is. And standing his own against somebody like Thor. It just makes it really interesting. The third arc is about lineage. It's not just about his father, but who his mother was. And you have artwork in here from Dyke Ren and Marcos To. And some of the covers by Lionel Francis Yu. And finally, the last story arc, which I don't want to spoil exactly what it is, but it is more about the history of the Ten Rings and him becoming a master of the Ten Rings. Not just as far as like the history within the character, but the history within the Marvel Universe and what it means. In the back, let's see here, you have the character guide. I think these are all found in the original trade paperbacks. Like, you have variant covers, full of variant covers, some of them in thumbnail size, and some of them in splash pages. And that is one hell of a big book and one hell of a read if you haven't had a chance to check it out. Star Wars Legends: The THRAWN Trilogy. Now, it's really weird. Like, out of all of these books, I think the only one I hadn't read before was White Widow. And I lucked out because, coming back from a couple of weeks off, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got so much reading to do. Then I realized, I just got to read White Widow and I can just refresh a little bit of myself with these other books. The other thing that comes that I both missed and did not miss this segment. What I did not miss about this segment is when I give myself, why did I start that? Because you all asked me to. when I give my seal of approval to just one book, because there's so much good stuff. I really enjoyed that White Widow book. I really enjoyed the Shang-Chi big, thick book like that. The next book I'm talking about, the Silver Surfer Freedom Epic Collection, the reprint, is full of some amazing stories and great artwork. Tread Moore's, like, Doctor Strange story is trippy, but I liked it. Demon Days and Demon Wars, they're another one of those stories that are trippy, but I love them. How the hell can I limit myself to one book? Easy. When a book like this comes out. Star Wars Legends, the THRAWN Trilogy. Are you kidding me? This is some of the best Star Wars comics I've read. It's phenomenal. Ironically enough, I just read it, or reread it, really, in the Omnibus edition when it came out. What? I filmed that about 3 weeks ago. That video's out, right? Oh, who the hell am I talking to? Myself? Yes, it's out. It's out. It's out. It's out. I think it's physically out now. The New Republic Volume 2. Wow. Blown away by this. It was amazing. This collects Star Wars Heir to the Empire 1 through 6, Dark Force Rising 1 through 6, and Star Wars The Last Command 1 through 6. This is the THRAWN Trilogy. 504 pages, $49.99. And I've talked about the trilogy itself in the past. And one thing that probably a lot of people saw is that this has the same content as Star Wars Legends Epic Collection, The New Republic Volume 4. Now, when people said that, I immediately, when we were talking about this, I looked at the page count, and this has about 50 plus more pages of extras than the Epic Collection Volume 4, which is currently out of print, by the way. The only way to really get the story in print is to get the omnibus, but not everybody, hence why some of you are here, most of you are here watching this, prefer the trade paperback format. So, I mean, if you're an Epic collector, I'm sure that will be reprinted one day. If you're just like a Star Wars collector, or I'm not a collector, but somebody that just loves Star Wars movies and you want to check out what some of the Star Wars comics are like, this is absolutely perfect. Or if you want to gift this, like I am, I'm gifting this to my buddy Dan, who loves Star Wars and has never had a chance to read the comic book adaptation of this. So this was originally written as a novel. So as a matter of fact, let's go over here. So it is all written by Mike Baron doing the adaptation of the THRAWN Trilogy. You have Olivier Vatanin and Fred Blanchard doing the art for Heir to the Empire. Terry Dodson with inks by Kevin Nolan. It actually works really well for Dark Force Rising. And then Edvin Bjokovic doing the art for The Last Command with Eric Shanower. And of course all these other folks doing the colors like Pamela Rambeau and Isabella Rabarat. So it gives you a quick rundown as to when this takes place, in case you're not familiar with Star Wars comics continuity. But this does take place after the ending of Return of the Jedi, and it's where we have a brand new villain. And this villain, hence the name of the book, the THRAWN Trilogy, is such a unique villain because he's not he's not in touch with the Force, right? He's not Darth Vader. He's not the Emperor. He's not any of these other villains, even Kylo Ren or Darth Tyrannus from the prequels. He's somebody that's just a tactician military leader and has heard that the Emperor's dead and the Empire's fallen, so it needs a new leader. So he steps in and takes that role, and it becomes this amazing epic story that if you watch my video on the omnibus, I go into a little bit of a deeper dive, but it is rightly so regarded as a freaking classic. You have the relationship building between Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker, and she herself becoming a really important part of the Star Wars universe, so much so that she's a fan favorite that people would love to see sometime in a live-action adaptation. A lot of people say, like this and the Dark Empire books are probably regarded as the best Star Wars comics. And, in my comment section, I actually saw some people saying, well, yeah, they are, but this is really, this is better than these books. So let's look at the extras while I talk a little bit about that. Because, like I said, this has 50 more pages of extras than the Epic Collection. So it's really cool that a lot of research went into this, and they were able to find some new scans and some new artwork. Looks like some sketches and layouts, and covers right here. Some of this has been released before. Yeah, like this right here. This is an introduction to Heir to the Empire. And I'm sorry, I don't have the epic to compare it to. I'm just kind of reminding myself of what I saw in the omnibus format. San Diego Comic-Con? Yeah. So it is a freaking awesome collection. And this is the new story right here by Timothy Zahn. And this one right here by Jody Houser. But that is Star Wars Legends, the Thrawn Trilogy. So it is all set during the Dark Horse era of the Star Wars comics. Last but certainly not least is Silver Surfer Epic Collection, Volume 3, Freedom. This is the newest printing, the printing that you all voted for. That's right, you all made this happen. This time around, it is $44.99. I always found this collection really interesting. This is compared to the original printing right here. Looks a little more silverish than white. Actually, let's look at this. So you have the original and the new printing here. The original printing was $34.99, and this one, again, $44.99. Original printing using this paper stock that... This doesn't happen very often, but it's looking a little bit yellowish. And that could be because, of course, I'm comparing it to the new printing, right? This is new and fresh. This one here, I want to say... It's not one of the earliest ones. Not sure if you can tell, but it was printed in 2010. So not one of the earliest ones, but also not one of the most newest ones. But it is something that I noticed right away. And honestly, whenever I do comparisons of these books, I don't really notice a little bit of a yellow tone. Definitely a different type of paper stock. So I think we've come miles from, what paper stock is going to last the longest. Because we are talking about physical media, right? Like we are talking about a book. And a lot of research goes into this. I was talking to a good friend of mine. We went to a Transformers convention about, how many years it took them to make the right plastic for some of these particular parts on Transformers, or like the rubber tires. I don't know if some of you all remember the Thunder Tank from Thundercats, how that's a very rare item to have because of the tread on the actual tank tires themselves. They used the plastic that didn't last very long, so that rubber is gone for a lot of those. Anyway, my point is that I find this science really cool, that they do enough research. They're like, okay, this paper stock may be a little bit thinner. It's actually semi-gloss, or this satin almost type of paper. But it definitely seems to last longer, or not yellow as fast as like these older printings here. So everything else is the same, though. The book still has 488 pages. So what does this collect? This collects Silver Surfer 1, Silver Surfer 1 through 14, the Supervillains Classics number 1, and then materials from Epic Illustrated, which is what kicks it off right here. Damn, this is so good. And Marvel Fanfare number 51. I think Epic Illustrated, that magazine only went on for about 30 or so issues before it was canceled. But it was supposed to be like a magazine, an anthology magazine, to go up against like the Warren comic books, right? Or the magazines, the anthology mags. And it is just a story about Silver Surfer questioning Galactus and asking him what is beyond the edge of the universe. And Galactus just coming back with the same answer. There is no answer. And that leads into the one shot right here, where it's written, or the plot is by John Byrne, and the pencils are all John Byrne, and then Tom Palmer doing the colors and inks. The script, however, is by Stan Lee. This is from the early 80s. And Silver Surfer, I don't know if people knew this or not, was a character that Stan Lee had to approve before anybody used him. Like, that was his baby. He loved the character of Norrin Radd. And for anybody to use him, it was near impossible. Like, Roy Thomas had to jump through hurdles to be able to use him in the Defenders book. Because Stan Lee just loved the character. So that's why this took, like, it takes place, very interesting, from 1980 to 1990. It's a big decade, because you have that one shot in 1982, and it's not until 1987 that you get his ongoing series right here with the legendary Steve Englehart and Marshall Rogers doing the penciling and the colors for this issue right here. Joseph Rubinstein doing the inks. And this is a really interesting story, because when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and, of course, Big John Buscema were telling the stories of the Silver Surfer, it was that time when the Silver Surfer was grounded on Earth. So what happens when he is now pretty much given the free reign to go and surf the cosmic universe, to go out there? What does he do? Well, Galactus now has a new herald, and that is Nova, Frankie, right here from the pages of the Fantastic Four. So what does he do? Well, he wants to return back to Zen-La and go and see what Shalabal's doing. Go to follow his heart. He hasn't seen these people for a long time. He hasn't followed up with them. He doesn't know what his love has been up to. And much like every tragic tale, there is a little bit of a twist as to what happens when he finally runs into her and what is decided. There are a few things about this that I really enjoyed. I hadn't read this in a long time. Actually, I think the last time I read it had to have been 14 years ago when this came out. Steve Englehart loved this character of Mantis. His character that he created during his run on the Avengers, and then was a character that he used and loved so much that it went over to DC a little bit, the Distinguished Competition, through hoops and hurdles he was able to use her. You can do enough research, you find out how, and independent books. But when he brings her here, he kind of plays like a little bit of a love interest. So you have not just Shalabal, but you have Nova, and now you have Mantis kind of playing this love interest, and she's the Celestial Madonna, and she goes through her own changes here too. So it's pretty much the story of Silver Surfer exploring this vast universe without being grounded here on Earth, although he does come back from time to time. And it's just done in such a cool way because he's Herald of Galactus, so he still has some responsibilities while having this freedom that he hasn't had for a long time. We also have the story of the Elders that are trying to destroy Galactus. And that Marvel fanfare story actually has like an origin of Galactus. We have Mephisto that comes into play through here. You have cosmic beings like the In-Betweener. You have Eternity and Death. And the other big thing that happens through here is this Kree-Skrull War. Like a follow-up to the Kree-Skrull War. A new Kree-Skrull War that is heating up within these pages. And it makes for a really interesting read. This, if I'm not mistaken, is the backup stories from, the Super Villain Classics right here. So reprinted the Galactus origin story from Thor 169, but it is expanded with 12 pages of new material. I love that they kept it all intact here, and here's the Marvel fanfare story. Beautiful art there by Big John. So 488 pages and $44.99. Ooh, almost jinxed it. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And those were all the books coming out this particular week from Marvel Comics. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you are picking up, which ones you already ended up getting in Treasury editions or the first printing of the Epic collections, which ones you didn't even know were coming out, and which one ended up surprising you. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.